And there's a reason why, you know, some of you do well in whatever you might have focused on, and really understand and see the big picture on what you choose to focus your time and energy on. Tammy and I have been focused a lot of our time and energy in this network marketing venture. And we want to talk to you about some of those things and how we draft it, because the reality, in fact, Tammy and I just picked up a book from Ed Myers, and
Milet.
excuse me, yeah. And I mean, he's really, really good. And I know that often, you know, he's going to share some things that you've heard from Jim Rohn or Anthony Robbins or maybe Eric Worre or others, but he has a certain way to communicate it. And in his book, he does a really, really good job, and especially the analogy with the matrix and the piñata. We'll talk about that a little bit. Tammy will touch on that. And it's really, really interesting how your life can transform. And I know, folks, that often, you know, you hear us talk, you hear people talk, and you know, it sounds like, you know, hocus pocus, yeah, whatever. It sounds really good, you know, when I hear it, but in reality, and that's the catcher. This is the situation, that what you see as your reality. What does your reality looks like? And we want to talk to you about this. So again, the title, as you stated, as you saw earlier, is Does Your Vision Matches Your Goals and Dream? And this, I'm telling you, is the foundation to everything. I remember, and I think, see, the last week we talked about the three different goals, the three different types of goals. And I remember talking about when I grew up, you know, my father used to tell me, stop dreaming, come back to reality. He didn't mean wrong by it. That was his ecosystem. That was an understanding of the world. And my father basically lives his entire life in that environment, and that's what he did. But he saw, for example, me and my brother making different decisions. And he saw, for example, in my case, what I have done, what Tammy has done. And he's turned around and says, wow, you guys really, and at the end of the day, it's because we chose to adjust our vision. How we see the world and how the world sees us is really based on how you see the world. It's really interesting. So Tammy, let me pass it over to you to initiate here.
Yeah, so we wanted to get a little bit deeper into vision tonight. And because most people go through their whole life with a blurred vision, and they don't achieve the things that they desired, that they wanted to have, do, be, whatever it is. And they just accept that fate based on past programming. And, you know, Chris was just talking about his dad, and soon as he did it, it triggered my mom talking to me. We all have that, right? Where somebody has said the way it is, and people like us don't have this. You know, my mom always said money doesn't grow on trees. Rich people are crooks. I mean, I heard that so many times. I heard so many things. But then it was interesting because I was a friend picked me up. She took me out for lunch, and an older woman, because I always surrounded myself with older people. I don't know why, but I always did. And her story was quite inspiring. And she had a nice car. They had a nice, successful business. And she said, you know, you can do anything that you desire in your life. And, you know, things like that, you remember, you know, some of your teachers or coaches that might have kept you smaller. Some might have empowered you to be more, do more, have more. But I think in general, we all hold on to that negative past programming, which keeps us grounded. It keeps us, you know, takes us away from all that we desire. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about some of that tonight. Chris is going to expand on some things too, because it's amazing how fast people give up. And I'm seeing this more and more today. It's crazy. So giving up on dreams, giving up on things because of what's happening in the environment. And it's so easy for people to settle today. We're seeing that comfort zone go to a whole new level since the pandemic. And so our goal is always to help elevate people, to help them see bigger than what they're seeing in the moment, because every single one of us was born to be abundant. And it's just a matter of accepting that fate. Know that it's your birthright. And how do you create that clear vision, which Chris is going to expand on in a little bit. So often I like people to go back and think about what are the things that hold them back. But I want to talk tonight. We'll have another session on that, because I think it's important to go deeper on that stuff, because a lot of that will damage us going into adulthood. I know a lot of it had for me, and I had so many courses that I had to take, so many breakthroughs that I had to go through to realize that my parents are not me. Their parents are not them. So we're all carrying this program forward. And I was the child. I was that child that broke it, the only child in the family that broke that pattern. And I will never go back to that pattern, but I'm the only child. And it would be great if all the children would do that. But it's not always the case, right? So it's good to go back and have some memories. But I want to talk about piñatas. Do you guys remember either your parents had a party for you, or you had a party for your children, or you attended a party where somebody had a piñata for their birthdays? You guys remember that? Everybody remember that? Just say yes, put your hand up in the chat if you want to say yes. Absolutely. I think we've all been through that experience. And I love the concept of this, because we're all super excited, right, when we see one of those, because we see that the goal, the vision, what's inside of that. We know what's inside of that. And if we can crack that, oh my gosh, that's totally heaven, right? Especially when we're kids. And so then we find out what the game is about. So we're blindfolded. This is a blurry vision, right? So we're all blindfolded one by one, and we have a bat, and so here we go. We're standing there. Next thing you know, on top of all of that, they start spinning us. Do you guys remember that? They start spinning you round and round and round and round. And then you go wild with your bat. And a lot of the kids, wouldn't even go close to hitting the target. Isn't that what life's about? But it's true. And it was interesting when I heard this analogy of blurred vision and how people are living today. That was absolutely true. And my very first time when I went to a birthday party, and then I ended up, when my kids had birthdays, when I ended up with kids, I did that for my kids. But when I went to a party and they had a piñata, I was trying to figure it out. I didn't go first. A lot of kids want to go first, right? Because they want to hit it and nail that candy. I didn't go first. I stood back and I had a vision of how this was going to go. And okay, so if I'm standing there and they got me blindfolded, I need to count how many turns they turn me, full turns. And all these things going through my head. I guess that's a creative mind. And I wanted to hit it, right? So a lot of children are just going to go up there, they get spinned, and that's another thing. When I was being turned around, I stood there for a moment, because I saw the other kids were falling, like they didn't have focus or balance or any of that. So I was watching what others were doing. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna kind of figure it out. And of course, you hit the target, right? So these are things that we need to focus on when we have a target, when we have a vision, because you're going to get off course. You're going to see other people in your team members get off course. You're going to see things happen. And then you got to bring yourself back to that vision. You got to bring sometimes your team members back to their vision, because they've got a blurred vision in the moment based on maybe something that's going on in their lives. Does any of this make sense to anybody here?
100%.
Okay. Okay. So that's why I wanted to share that, because when I heard it, it just brought me back to that piñata moment. It brought me back to watching the other kids and how I was analyzing things, and I wanted to hit the target. And I guess that's why in life, no matter what target I put out there, I always had a vision at a very, very young age. And I knew when my mom said that this was not for us, I couldn't control it as a child living in that environment, but I knew that I could control it as I journeyed in life. And did I fall? Absolutely. I fell over and over and over again, but I still had the vision and I still had the target and took actions to move towards the goals and the dreams. And I can tell you, if I can do it, I know probably most of you know that are on this session, maybe not all of you, but I barely made it through high school. I didn't do well in school, and all the people around me kind of mocked me down, laughed at me, did all kinds of things. And I knew where I was going. I knew what I needed to do. I wish I would have stayed longer in school, but I'm self-educated because of the courses and the books and the environment that I put myself in, the visionaries I surrounded myself with to be able to, I guess, get that level of education that a lot of people will have. But what's important through all of that education process is the actions towards vision that I think a lot of people are missing. And so in the next few weeks, we're going to target a lot of stuff like this, because I think that going back to the fundamentals is really, really important. We get so caught up in life, every single one of us. Sometimes we just have to step back, go back to the fundamentals, get back and get clear, get rid of that blur and get clear again on what we want to attract, whether it's something we want to be in the future, what you want to do, what you want to have, all these things. So I'm going to let Chris take over and share a little bit about, obviously, the big vision and what it takes to have that vision and how to create that vision.
Yes, and first of all, I wanted to welcome everybody on Facebook Live, and I know Erika is there, and Alice is there, Whatmaster is there, among others. So thank you for joining in. Appreciate your feedback and comments. And here's the thing, and as Tammy was talking, and I had actually memory flashes on certain behaviors in my upbringing. And I remember as the kid, I always had the nicest candies. I always had the best toy. I always had, the things that my other siblings did not have. And I remember, I just remember my father, I keep bringing my father, kind of, you got to share your stuff. You got to share your stuff. And being young, right? You don't know any better. He says, well, I work for this. I work for that. And, I really wanted to have this. And I did all of this. And my mom, I remember stepping in and actually coming to my aid and protect you. Say, you know what? He did all the work, so my mom supported. So, but there's a message into all of this, right? And the reality is, you look at life today as we're all adults, there's a huge gap and a big difference on what each and every one of us have done or doing, right? So the thing here is what Tammy talked about with the analogy to piñata. There's a lot of wisdom in this, because that fact is most people live their life without any clarity, without any vision, without any direction, shooting from the hip and hope for the best. And that's what most people do. It's the reason why a country is in debt. Why is it a country is in debt? Well, okay, of course, government, something will make some dumb decisions, but let's not put that politically. But the reality is people live beyond their means. They don't look what they have, they just want. And they're just going to go and spend and add it to their credit card. We'll deal with it later. And when later happens, then the roof is caving in, or the roof is leaking, or my tooth is hurting, or my car broke down. And next thing you know, these pile up. Next thing you know, you're in trouble. Well, the entire world is like that. And that's why the economy is in turmoil. And the reality is, despite all of that stuff, and trust me, Tammy and I are working around these situations, and it's not always easy, right? But the fact is, the reason why we're still in a target is because we have a specific direction, and we want to help you guide this. We want to guide you in getting these directions. So one of the things that's very important is to have, listen, don't be afraid of big vision. Let me give you an example. This morning, I invest money, right? This is something, Tammy and I are preparing a retirement and everything else. And we're still young, but still we're preparing our retirement. And I'm not sure if some of you are familiar with this particular app. Let me just bring it up here. Of course, because I want it, it won't be there. Yes, here we go. It's called the Ape Board, right? These are, like, some of you have stocks, some of you have RSPs in retirement, some of you have TFSAs, and some of you TFSAs are in the stocks, and it's tax free, and the profit that comes out, all of that's cool. But there's also another side to the future, which is crypto. And what happened is I've been putting into it. At first, I was kind of very skeptical, putting up a couple $100. Now things have grown. And I this morning I came up and I did a refresh, and it said, I don't know if you saw the post, but it said, you can see my name there. It says 24 billion plus in value. Now, why did I take a picture of that? Because the way my mind works is, of course, it's a lot. But the point here is, what you focus on, you attract. So I took a picture of it and I posted it. And in fact, hey, guys, by the way, I'm aware that this was not the correct amount. When I did a refresh, the right amount showed up, right? So I'm not trying to vent on something that's not real. But what I'm trying to say is, the way I'm focusing, and that's what I want to walk you through, is I'm constantly grabbing on to things or scenarios or environment that are much, much bigger than me, beyond my reach. This is, I think, the difference between the way Tammy and I do things and maybe a lot of the folks around, is we think big. And I mean big. I mean, I've said it before, but my goal is $10 million in asset and also cash. I mean, altogether, $10 million. That's what my goal is. And we're working towards that. And I guarantee you I'll have it. Our kids will be well off. But I mean, what am I going to do with this? It's a target, right? It's a goal. It's not just about the money. It's just the freedom around it and the things that we can do and the places that we choose to live in and everything else. You may have different goals. Trust me, this is not my point, and what I'm telling you is not what you should focus on. The point I'm trying to tell you here is, some of those things will scare the heck out of people, and some will get off this call because it's overwhelming to them. That's okay. My goal is to take you in that journey. And if you want to get there, we'll take you there. But you need to draw that map. And you got to think big. And you have to stop thinking about taxes, how much taxes I'm going to pay. Who cares? If you make tons and tons and tons of profits, yes, you'll pay more taxes. But also, there's a lot you can do. There's a lot you can do with more money. And here's the reality: if you live in Canada, I don't know, the US, I think, is very similar, because I know Ontario, we also have the Commonwealth, very similar to the United States tax system. So I'm assuming it's probably quite similar. But the reality is, if you make a lot of money in this country, you have the opportunity to invest. And when you invest, what do you think happened to this economy? You contribute to your economy. You are growing your economy. What happened when hundreds of thousands of people invest? It grows the economy. What does the government does in return, in exchange? They give you a tax credit. So it's not that you're trying to weasel your way out of taxes. You contribute to why the country is getting richer. And in return, the country gives you tax credit for you to be able to do more of that. That's the reality. So the fact here is, and tell me I'm not reading the comments because I'm in my space here sharing. one of the things is that the big vision, the big plan is, what is the perfect day for you? A perfect day for you. For example, if everything in your life was right, your money, right? Your religious status, your children, and your health, your assets, right? All these things, what would be the perfect day for you? Where you wake up in the morning and you look at your accounts, your children's are doing this or doing that, you are super healthy, you're training every morning, whatever it is, it doesn't matter how old you are, you can function, and you are functioning in a very healthy environment, right? So what does that day look for you? And you need to start imagining these things. Let me tell you something. Often I wake up in the morning because of negative news, negative videos and movies, negative, things that we see all the time, we hear. I wake up in the morning and sometimes I have major negative thoughts. And here's what I tell myself. Today is going to be one of the most amazing days of my life. This week, I'm going to have the most amazing week of my life. This month, I'm going to have the best month of my life. I'm not kidding. You would laugh if you hear what goes on in here in the morning, right? But these are things that I tell myself. And it is amazing. Sometimes the people that will connect with you, the environment you will fall yourself under, and Tammy, feel free to chip in if you have something to add here as I continue with that. But the fact here is it begins with you and what you focus on and what you think about. If you happen to be a dweller, you dwell on not enough money, my health is not at par, I don't like my life, I don't like my business, I don't like this, I don't like that, and you dwell and you keep repeating that, what do you think is going to happen in your life? A whole lot more of that. And that is the reality. That is the reality. So if you look at your Max business, let's talk about that for a moment. What are your thoughts around the opportunity? What are your thoughts about the money? Some folks, when you start talking about money, they're gone. That's why they don't have any. Because there's absolutely no respect around owning the money. And money, folks, is nothing. It is a tool. It is a tool, just like these ugly glasses for, blue light I use for my computer, right? It's a tool. But what you can do with this tool, that's where the difference is. And you can choose to do lots of great things. When people say money is the root of all evil, really? Because in my book, money makes you more of what you are. If you're an awesome person, well, guess what you can do with that money? Awesome things. If you're a person that cares about their church or their families or the community, or, and it's okay to be a little bit selfish, you can have a beautiful house. Is there something wrong with that? No, there isn't. So the fact is, where do you focus your thoughts? On the debts and how much money I owe, or the opportunity, like this wonderful promotion that is added on to this opportunity? So one of the things I'd like to ask you is, what does that perfect day looks like to you? And it's up to you if you want to do your homework or not. But I do recommend that you write it down. Write it down. Make a list. What does that perfect day does? Those of you that will execute, I am telling you, it will change your life. Only those of you that execute. The second one is, what is the first thing that you will do with it? So, for example, if you had all the cash in the bank, like this morning, I saw $24 billion plus in my account. I'm laughing because it's beyond my reach, right? For me, 10 million is what I want. It's all I want. 24 billion, 10 million can fit a lot into that, right? So, but the point here is, what would you do with it? I mean, there's a lot of stuff I would do with it. And I can tell you, it wouldn't be just buying a big house. I mean, how much money can you spend in a house? Eventually, there's so much, right? building maybe hospital and for children in different countries. And I mean, there's so many things. It would definitely be focused on children because children are our future. And that's kind of how Tammy and I focus on. But at the end of the day, what would you do with it? Okay, that's one thing. And again, I'm just giving you a quick example because, we're trying to keep the call not too long. Okay. And here's the other question that kind of stepped up and I kind of shared with you is, are you waking up with gratitude? This is something, Tammy, what is the gentleman that was just, that passed away, and I think he passed in 2008 or 2009? Dyer.
Wayne Dyer.
Wayne Dyer. Right?
Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Yeah. This man was absolutely amazing every single day. And if you have an opportunity to listen to his last documentary that he did, it's brilliant. And every morning when you wake up, what are you grateful for? Because you don't have to lie to yourself on the things that you want that you don't have. Sometimes it's a little bit uncomfortable, but it's okay to think about it, right? And in fact, I highly recommend to focus on it, but being grateful every single day. What are you grateful for? Because when you're grateful, what I found is you tend to have more of what you're grateful for. It's really interesting, that force that was created by our creator. It's unbelievable. It is at your fingertips. It is your birthright. But most people look the other way. I truly mean that. They look the other way in fear of guilt or whatever the reason may be. The other is look around. What does your home look like? The ultimate home. When we talked about our goals, Tammy and I remember I talked about the Donald Trump buildings, okay? These big buildings, waterfront and everything else in Miami. And I remember I was stuck on that. And it was on my dream board and everything else. It just happened that that's what we have in Florida, right? And again, it's just an example of, and we talked about, the dream car, the electric car and everything. And there's so much more. I mean, these are materials things. There's other things that I'm not talking about. But the fact here is, what does your dream home look like? I remember when Tammy, the homes that we like, we used to drive by all the time. When things were tough, get on the car and drive around in these beautiful homes and these really rich communities. And it makes you, it stimulates. So again, that's one question.
Yeah, we took pictures in front of it, selfies in front of it. We would imagine what the inside would look like. And yeah, all kinds of stuff that we would do to envision that beautiful life that we were looking for. And that's what you have to do. You have to go out and see things that you desire. Like if you're looking for a new car, go to a car dealership, go to several car dealerships, try some cars, ask the sales rep to take a picture of you in the car, and that you'll be picking it up on a certain date. And this is the color that you're going to be choosing. And you're creating this as you're out there in the environment to do it. Don't just stand behind a computer. You got to get out there and get into an environment that will inspire you to want to be that or be there or whatever it is that you're looking for. And these are all the little things, big things, I should say, not realizing they're really big things. At the time, other people were training us and teaching us things that we needed to do. And when we had down days, we didn't stay alone. We would contact leadership. We would surround ourselves with the environment that would inspire us to be more, do more, have more, because it's easy to fall. It's easy to fall, let's face it, especially when we're alone. Mm-hmm. Right? So don't be alone. You have to surround yourself with people. How are people going to guess that you're in a pickle, that you're in a situation where you're really challenged and you just really need somebody to talk to? And that's one thing that we did really well. We went up to whoever was up and we'd say, hey, it's just not working right now. And they'd bring us back to, casting us into our vision and making sure that we're working our plan. And these are all the things that our leaders did when we were growing. So, your leadership is not going to chase you 24 hours a day. Okay.
No, that's an
We all
understatement.
have to take responsibility, but we all have to also realize that we're all going to have down days. I have my down days. I do my thing. I know what picks me up. Working out gives me my creativity. And then I'll listen to some motivational stuff if that's something that I need to do in that moment. I will check my vision board and I will really get focused on what's on that board. And then I'll get back into my state.
So create that big vision, folks, and take the time. I know that some of us have spent more time on the vacation than we've spent on designing an entire life. And that's a reality. Most people don't even spend a minute designing their life of how they want their life to be. And remember that Tammy and I have been exposed to a lot of mentors, and we spend a lot of resources to be around them. And we keep hearing this. And the fact is we're living, some of them are living, we're talking riches beyond what Tammy and I have ever, believe it's possible, but we're seeing it. And when you see it and you talk to these people and you realize, geez, we're not that different. The mindset's different,
Possible.
right?
Yeah.
The belief is different. Mm-hmm. So what's happening is it's growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. And this is where that's what we wanted to impact you. And the fact, folks, is do this, at least take as a call to action for tonight. Think of those questions, because we were giving you some examples, and Tammy talked about, the gym in the morning and going walking to the beach and, traveling the world. And I mean, we do all of these things, but once upon a time, it was a dream. It was just a dream. Now it's like we're taking it for granted. Let me rephrase that. It's like we're taking it for granted, but no, not at all. We're in fact very grateful, but it's our everyday life. Mm-hmm. But once upon a time, you say, oh, if I could just have enough to pay my mortgage, that would be so awesome. I remember thinking,
so far. Do you remember, Chris?
Oh yeah, I remember
so far,
but make enough money to pay my damn mortgage. I would so be grateful. So that's where it was from. But what's happening is we've grown and grown, and as you earn more and get more and build more and do more, what's happening is that your mind expands. So, but it starts with you, and it starts, and you need to understand that you can change things very quickly, but unfortunately, as human beings, we're not fast when it comes to change. Okay, people don't change very quickly. We need to adapt. We need to accept. We need to put these little deposit to create that belief, because when the belief starts measuring what you're seeing, that's when things become real to you. When it becomes real to you, that's when you achieve. And that's what the vision is all about. The vision is the destination of your journey. And I'm telling you, folks, there's a lot to do, and it doesn't have to be strenuous. It doesn't have to be difficult. It's the way you think about it. See, I grew up, and I remember telling Tammy, God, for me to do anything with results, I gotta freaking bleed. Excuse me the expression. I gotta bleed. And the reality is I bled to get just a little bit of results. But things have changed, because my values, my mindset, my views have changed. And I really recommend that you get his book. I really, really do. Tammy, what is the book's name again? The Power, the One More?
Yeah, The Power of One More.
Yeah, The Power of One More.
Ed Milet.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been around for, I think, 30, he was talking about 30 years. Yeah. And he talked about all the successful businesses that he's created. And I think he's done a lot more than that book. Yeah. Just kind of following him. We follow anybody who's living a life that's more than what we have, but at the same time, they're good heart, good souls. And I really admire the way he communicates. I also admire the way Lisa Nichols, she really inspires me as well. So there's people out there that are going to inspire you, that are going to elevate you. And, you got to surround yourself with that environment. And with YouTube and all the podcasts and everything out there,
I mean, everything is there.
There's
Everything
no
is there.
excuse for people to stay small other than they made that decision.
So let's focus, Demi, on for example, looking at your Max business. Now, wouldn't that be awesome if your checks would be 30,000, 40,000, 50,000? Do you believe that it's possible? Do you truly believe that it's possible? That's right, Marie-Paul. It starts with your level of belief. Let's start with $10,000 a month. Hey, let's start with, I don't know, $5,000 a month. Remember, I'm talking about US here. Okay. So the fact here is, who do you need to attract for this? Because you need leaders, right? You can't have a bunch of customers. It won't take you there. The customers are great. As I always say, it's my default, and customers could be converted into associates. But you're looking for leadership. Leadership. What kind of leadership do you want to attract? Focus on that kind of leadership every single day. And you know what what may happen? You may come across someone, and be ready, because sometimes the answers comes very quickly, but we're just not ready. So when it comes and knocks, it passed right by because we didn't attend to it, because you weren't ready. I'm telling you, this is the ultimate truth I'm sharing with you, right? And so again, start with your journey, right? Physically, spiritually, mentally, socially, all of these things that matters to you. Focus on what you want and not what you don't want. That is the key right there. So at the end of the day, there's so much more that we can talk about, but there's no point of keep adding. What's important is you need to surround yourself with the kind of knowledge and the environment of people that are in line with your vision. So we mentioned to you a book. Tammy talked about Lisa, right? Here we go. Marie-Paul put the link here of Power of One More ebook. Thank you, Marie-Paul. It's very, very appreciated. What about Irene? I don't know what that is, Lucy. Am I missing something, Lucy? Tammy? Irene. Okay. So at the end of the day, what's important here is draft your vision and start by focusing on the things that matters to you, that are important. And the other point that's really important is don't limit those things by what you think you can get. That is the biggest mistake most people do. Very often, I just remember, I forgot the exact moment, but I remember instances where there was a sale being made, and I think I was selling one of my phones or something like that, and I was testing the person. It says, "What are you willing to pay for it?" Right? And no, sorry, I was buying something. That's what it was. And I said, "What are you willing to sell it to me for?" And I could tell right away by his answers that he had a very small mindset when it comes to money. He could have asked me for a lot more money for something. I probably would have paid for it. And it cost me nickel and dimes. So it's amazing how people underestimate themselves. And this is what most people do when they sell this opportunity. They sell it small and short-sighted. When I sell this thing, it's a big deal. Just listen to any of the presentation that I've been part of. It's a big deal. This is a big opportunity. This is massive. We are changing the world 1% at a time. The income is massive. The possibilities are massive. How are you talking about this? Has a lot to do with the way you feel around money and your value around money. So these are my thoughts for this evening. Tammy, was there anything else you want to add as we end?
Create a vision board. As Chris is talking about all of this, we often take a lot of notes when we get on courses, it's important to see this. You have to have, this vision has to be in front of you. I've got this electronic frame here, and it just spins on diamonds, future diamonds. I can see this when I'm working. I've got my own personal vision board behind this wall. I have to put it here on
The door.
right there. I have to put it there so you guys can see it.
Hey, by the way, Tammy, I know what Lucy meant. Irene is, she's here. And she was saying, what about you, Irene? So I apologize, Irene. I apologize, Lucy. Got it. So back to you, Tammy. Just wanted to clarify that. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So when you see your vision, it's going to inspire you to do the work, because once you create your strategy plan, you got to be surrounded by things that are going to inspire you to want to have it. I've got little quotes everywhere. I've got this one, make today so awesome that yesterday gets jealous. I see this every single day. So I want to have an awesome day. So yesterday is jealous, and it has to do with building my business. And I've got other ones over here. You never cross the ocean unless you have the courage to leave sight of the shore. How many times are people afraid to leave the shore because of the unknown?
That's an understatement.
How many times does that happen? You got to be willing to let go of some of the past programs, some of the things that are holding you back. It's not all going to happen in one shot, but these can be other sessions in the future, Chris.
No, I totally agree. And I know that next week we're talking about doing a call on the 10 things that you should be aware that you need to cover when you present if you want to have closure on a positive note with your prospect and wanted to come in on board. So I think that will be a great call for all of you.
Next week is Bobby Horn, Chris?
Yes, next week is Bobby Horn. That is correct. Thank you. That will be a great call. It'll be the week after that. Okay.
Yeah, it's how to create value on the products, because a lot of people they share the products with people, but the value part is missing. People look at the cost over value. We got to really emphasize on value over cost. And I asked her to go deep into that. So she's working on something. So get all of your associates.
Yes.
Reignite some people who haven't been around for a while, because this one is going to be a really good one. Because I think a lot of people quit because they talk to people about the products and people say it's too expensive. So they end up deciding that they're not going to do this anymore.
Yeah, they're comparing us to Walmart, off the shelf, cheap, wannabe products, when we have the ultimate Bentley, but the way it's communicated, the value is not there. So when people choose, they consider pulling the money out of their wallets to pay for it, then they second guess. But that's the point. And that's what the call is all about, is to help you bring value. So if you got associates in your team, even customers, bring them on board. So it won't be much of an opportunity call. It'll be more of a product approach and value, and creating value for the product, especially as we do trade shows and everything else. This is really going to help you. Okay. And Tammy, maybe later on too, we'll do another call on how we're preparing for our trade shows, with what we're doing on the back end, and the things that we're doing to be able to collect money and everything else, so we can sell intro pack for $10 and $20 and $50, and help associates move their products and buy products and put products in people's hands, but in the same time getting the value back and not always giving your stuff for free. So we'll talk about that. Okay, so that comes to the end of our session. So thank you so much, everybody, for signing in. And remember that we have that promotion that goes on till the end of September. Take advantage of that. And again, we always appreciate your attendance and your participation. So everybody, have yourself a wonderful evening. Hope that you got some insight from that call this evening.
Chris, don't close out, because we're doing our content creation.
Yep, I'm just gonna shut off the recording.